for those students who were not able to make it today. So let's talk about what we're looking for in chapter 4. So this would be a great time. Let me turn on my screen share here real quick. I want to share screen 3. Okay. Can I get like a thumbs up or a chat in the comment? Can everybody see the chapter 4 comic book? Everybody's good with that? Fantastic. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Okay. So in this chapter, we're looking for a couple of things. We're looking for settings. So settings are easy. Those are places. We're looking for an antagonist. That's going to be like our villain. We're going to be looking for irony. So irony is the difference between the appearance of something, what we expect to happen, and the reality of what happens. We want to describe how Odysseus lost all of his fleet but one ship. We want to describe what Circe does to Odysseus's men, how Odysseus is able to outwit Circe, and some more questions on dramatic irony, etc., etc. So, let me let Xavier in here real quick. I did make a change that I had wanted to show you guys on Canvas. So one of the things that I did, I'll show you guys on chapter 3 because that one was kind of the last one we looked at. I updated some of the summaries. If there are names that you guys might need to know, I added some of those with a phonetic breakdown of how to say the name along with the video lecture. Now, some of these are much more full of characters because of the amount of characters. So like in chapter 2, there was quite a few characters. In chapter 4, what we're going to be looking at today, there's several characters. So Aeolus, the god of the winds, the Lastrygonians, these are giants. Eurylochus, Odysseus is second in command. Circe is an enchantress. Tiresias is a blind prophet. Elpenor. So again, when you guys are looking for these, you can just use the phonetic breakdown. Also, as a bonus, some of these might be people that we're going to be paying attention to as the story progresses. So without any further ado, let me go ahead and pull these up. So let's go ahead and get going on chapter 4. So always make sure that you read kind of the introduction right here, because there's probably going to be a question or so that comes from the introduction. So all of this part is kind of a summary of what has happened so far. And then this part is a summary of chapter 3. So Odysseus, in telling his story, talks about going to Aeolus' island. So the Aeolian Islands, that's going to be a place that we're looking at. So he gets to the Aeolian Islands. This king, super dope king, helps hook him up by putting all of the winds in a bag except for the west wind. So the west wind is what's going to help Odysseus and his men get home. They journey for 10 days. They literally see Ithaca in the distance. They can see it. And Odysseus's men, being absolute stupid people at this point of time, decide they want to be snoopy and open the bag that King Aeolus gave Odysseus. And out of the bag came all of those winds. Now, all of those winds simply blew all of the men back right where they started on the Aeolian Islands. So that really sucks for them. Could have gotten home, but oh no, they had to go snooping through Odysseus's stuff. So they go back to the Aeolian Island where King Aeolus is like, hey bro, I ain't helping you. So the second place they end up is this Telepolis. It's a city of the Lastrygonians. So they go to an island of the Lastrygonians. Let me let a student in. And on the island of the Lastrygonians, Odysseus goes on a scouting trip. He's gonna check some stuff out. He's gonna make sure, you know, the way is clear, that he's all good going forth. So he leaves all of his boats in the ocean except one that he kind of takes to the harbor, if you will. Takes to the harbor, and while he's kind of enjoying the view, Lastrygonians, which are a race of giants, come and destroy all of his boats, all of his men, except for one. So that sucks for Odysseus and all of his men. So we've got a couple things that we've had so far. So we've got a couple places. We've got how Odysseus's men are all destroyed. We've already got some irony, right? Where back here we expect the men to get home. They can literally see Ithaca in the distance and they get blown back. And we just got all of the men killed until they reached the Aeaean Islands, which is the third place. Now, on this island, Odysseus and his men go exploring, and they meet an enchantress called Circe. Now, Circe turned all of Odysseus's men into pigs. She was a magician. Gave them a potion, turns all of the men into pigs, which sucks for them. But Odysseus, with the help of Hermes, was given a special talisman, Molly. That is a drug. Was given Molly, and the Molly was going to protect Odysseus from Circe's enchanting powers. So Odysseus goes, confronts Circe. Circe realizes her magic is not working on him, and decides, rather than being enemies, rather than being Odysseus's antagonist, that they could be friends instead. Now, her version of friends is a little bit different than my version of friends. Her version of friends is to sleep with Odysseus and take him to bed, and then keep him and all of his men on her island for a year, partying. Yeah, that's right. A whole year. She did change his men back, and she actually kind of hooked up the men. So when she changed them back from pigs, she made them younger and like taller, better looking than they were before. So, I mean, maybe not a super bad gig, right? Be turned into a pig and then get younger, better looking bodies. So, so the men enjoy their time with Circe, but after a year of partying, drinking, they decide we want to go home. So Odysseus breaks up with Circe while they're in bed, and the next morning they arise. He wakes all of his men up to go home. Now, unfortunately, when he was waking his men up, there was a young man named Elpenor who was sleeping on the roof. He was passed out drunk on the roof of Circe's house. When he woke up, in his haste to get down, he fell off the roof and broke his neck, dying right in front of Odysseus and his men, which breaks them up, right? I mean, this is the youngest man. This is kind of like their kid brother. He's dead. And as they get ready to leave, Circe says, okay, before you go home to Ithaca, here's what you need to do. You need to go down to the underworld. You need to go to Hades, and you need to consult with a ghost by the name of Tertius, and he will help give you instruction on how you're going to get home. So off they go to the underworld. And I know I'm going through this kind of fast, you guys, but again, hopefully you read chapter 4 already. So again, I'm just trying to kind of give you a summarization, making sure I at least hit on some of the questions that are asked on Actively Learn. So chapter 5, we start in the underworld. Now, the underworld, you're asked about the setting of the underworld. So literally, you're supposed to just look at this picture and go, what do I see? What do I feel based on the picture? So Odysseus makes an offering for Tiresias to kind of like draw him out. And what he wants is he wants for Tiresias to accept his offering and then ask some questions. Now, the problem is, as they're waiting, a whole bunch of the other dead come to try to drink out of the offering. So Odysseus is keeping the ghosts back, if you will, right? None shall pass, keeping them back until Tiresias comes and answers his questions. So as he's looking at the ghosts, though, he's seeing people that he knows. He sees Elpenor, for instance, and is like, dude, that's crazy. We just left you dead on Circe's island. So he sees Elpenor. He sees his mother who's he has not seen for over a decade. He didn't even know she was dead, you guys. Sees his mother. Finally sees Tiresias and is able to give Tiresias this blood offering, ask the questions that he needs answered. So Tiresias is like, hey, on your way home, you want to make sure that you avoid eating sheep or cattle on the island of the sun god. If you get home, there's going to be evil men in your house. You still need to make Poseidon happy. And eventually at the end of your life, you will pass away full of years and peace of mind, and your people will bless you. So we now have some information for Odysseus and him getting home. And then Odysseus asks one further question. How do I speak with those in the underworld? Because they're like mindless zombies. And Tiresias simply tells him, you just need to have them drink from the offering. So, okay. That's it. I got to just have them drink. He's like, so let's try this. So he has his mom come over. She drinks from the blood offering. They have a wonderful conversation. And then he talks with some former friends of his. The king from Agamemnon, the king from the Trojan War, talks with Achilles, talks with his character foil. A character foil is a character that's kind of like the opposite. There was a man named Ajax, where Odysseus was smart and cunning. Ajax was not nearly as smart and cunning, but he was incredibly strong, incredibly powerful physically. He didn't need Odysseus's smart. He just brawn over brains, right? So they spend their time in the underworld, and away they go, still trying to get home. So they go back to Circe's island to bury Elpenor properly. And then Circe comes up and is like, hey, pay attention to what I'm going to tell you. On your way home, you're going to meet something called the Sirens and the Scylla and the Charybdis. Now, what should bug us as a reader is we don't actually know what she says. We just know what she talks about. We know the topic, but not what the conversation was about. So the Sirens, if anybody's ever seen Pirates of the Caribbean, the Sirens are kind of like the mermaids, right? They sing beautifully, but their voice lowers men to their doom. So Odysseus, being Odysseus, got some smarticles, has all of his men put on earplugs to avoid listening to the sounds of the sirens. However, he gets bound to the mast of his boat, gets tied up to the boat, and wants to listen to the sirens' sound. So one of the questions is, why do you think Odysseus wanted to listen? Like, what would possess him where everybody else is wearing earplugs? Odysseus is like, no, no, no. I'm not doing the earplugs thing. Instead, tie me up so that I can listen to them. Why? Why would he want that? Is he just curious? Is he maybe looking to be the only man who's ever listened to this? Like, what's motivating Odysseus? So they pass the sirens, the man-eating monsters, only to come across two more monsters, Scylla and Charybdis. Now, Scylla was a six-headed, six-armed monster. Charybdis was a monster who lived right below the ocean that created a whirlpool, would basically suck in entire ships. And Odysseus has to get between the two of them. So what he does is, rather than getting too close to Charybdis, because if he gets too close to Charybdis, the whirlpool that Charybdis uses for kind of a mouth is going to suck Odysseus and all of his men in, and they could all die. But Scylla only has 6 arms and 6 heads. So Odysseus is like, the most men that Scylla could eat at a time is 6. Rather than losing all of the men, maybe let's try to lose 6 at a time. So the men row with all their might, which is kind of funny because they're rowing, some of them are rowing to their death, to Scylla. And she pounces and starts eating 6 of the men. Now, Odysseus and his men do pass by Scylla, having only lost 6 men. But Odysseus says it was the most sickening sight that I had seen throughout my journey and my voyages on the seas. And that kind of, that kind of ended chapters 4 and chapters 5. Now, what your guys' task for this week is to try to get through chapter 6, chapter 7, and chapter 8. The story goes much faster now that we've kind of gotten all the major background out of the way. So I will go ahead. I'll stop the recording actually.